The SMc VRE-1C. Lots of letters. VRE, Virtual Reality Engine. SMC, Steve McCormack. 1C, the iteration of the unit. It all reminds me. Let's rewind back to the status quo. Back in the day, audio research, Conrad Johnson, Krell Industries, and a handful of other companies defined the high end. In those days, a review in a magazine sold thousands of units. I read a review of the SP11. I bought it. And 2 months later, another review came out saying that the Mark II was a preferred unit. Well, I just spent all that money on the original SP11. That's when I knew I had to talk to other people in audio. I couldn't trust the review. I couldn't trust one man's opinion at that time. So I founded the Philadelphia Audio Society. This is back in the late 1980s. And I began to network and share data points with other audiophiles. I befriended a dealer. His name was Terry Menaker. And he ran a store that was a satellite of Soundex in Berwyn, Pennsylvania at the time. He loaned me a preamplifier to take home for the weekend. It had an interesting pedigree. It was Keith Jarrett's. Keith had traded it in. It was called a Convergent Audio Technology, or CAT. And I took it home and I placed it back and forth between the SP11 and sat there in wonderment. Veils were removed from my system. I was closer to the music. I could hear much more detail and impact. Tighter bass, more realistic mid-range. And that's what I knew. I knew that finding a piece of audio equipment, it's not easy. What was so profound about the Convergent Audio Technology, or CAT, was it wasn't evolutionary, it was revolutionary. And dare I say, fast forward 20 years hence or more now, that Steve McCormack's SMc VRE-1C is, to this now veteran listener, revolutionary. This preamplifier, it strips away a gauzy sound that I thought was around almost every instrument on almost all of my reference recordings. I have some of the most fantastic audio equipment in the world. My most recent reference preamp, the Ypsilon Active Pre. Perhaps the most magical preamp I've yet to hear. But the SMc, it's different. It's revolutionary. You may not like it. It might reveal too much information. In my system, when I first put it in, I heard ambience on the back of a Winter Pills recording I had never heard. It was clear as a bell. The transients were lightning fast. The images were dimensional. You know, sometimes you think of a bright or revealing sound as being a little two-dimensional. Not that way. Not that way here. It was like a spotlight had been placed on every part of the recording. Everything became more vibrant. A little bit more forward in your room. A lot more realistic. Now the Ypsilon was surely magical, and if I could own both, I would. The Ypsilon for the days where I want a more layered sound, a more magical sound, floating the images in their own little space. The SMC, I want that on that day. I want to hear exactly what's on the recording. I want to hear that gigantic space on some of the recordings. The SMc VRE. It's a solid state unit. The Ypsilon is a tube unit. But the speed of that SMC and the magic of that speed, again, it's revolutionary. Now we've paired the SMc VRE-1C with the Ypsilon Alias monoblock amplifiers and the AudioNet Max monoblock amplifiers on the YG Sonyas. The YGs are very revealing. Perhaps the most revealing loudspeaker available today. When you feed it this system with the revolutionary SMC, the detail and nuance in your recordings that you've known for 20, 25, or perhaps only 5 years, or more recent recordings, is astonishing. The sound doesn't roll out at you, it's presented instantaneously at you. It's not a sound where you're going to fall into yourself and close your eyes and roll into the music. It's a sound that makes you want to listen. It makes you stand up at attention. It is not a close your eyes, get lost sound. It is a very realistic sound that rivets you to the recording. The revolutionary Steve McCormack VRE-1C preamplifier to this veteran listener redefines the possibilities of solid state. I highly recommend its audition, and I look forward to hearing his phonostage and amplifiers that he has on the drawing board. And you should too. Steve McCormack. In my mind, he just entered the world of one of the top 5 designers in high performance audio. Welcome to the club, Steve. And I welcome you to reach out, audition this preamplifier, and see if you don't agree with me too. Peter Berlinger reporting for avshowrooms.com.